You're tuned in to the Dr. Kinney Show, and I'm your host, Dr. Erin Kinney, a naturopathic doctor and speaker dedicated to unraveling the mysteries of your body and guiding you back into balance. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Dr. Kinney Show. Happy New Year. This episode is coming out the first week in January, and I wanted to take a little time to talk about setting intentions, just talk about some ways you can kind of set yourself up for a great year. You know, this time of year, most of us are setting New Year's resolutions and kind of thinking about what we're going to do. Maybe you're thinking about what happened last year, maybe things you want to change. So I just wanted to offer kind of my insights on how to set yourself up for success. You know, I think a lot of health issues that we struggle with, whether it's, you know, you're not sleeping well or your weight's not how you want it to be or your hormones are out of balance. A lot of things that we do in our lifestyle practices have an impact on those. And these are things that a lot of us set out to change at the beginning of the year. Hey, I'm going to join a gym, or I'm going to meditate every day, or, you know, we set these resolutions. And I don't have any problem with resolutions. I think they can be fantastic, but I can't remember what the statistics show, but most people set a resolution in January, and by February, March, like, we're not doing those practices anymore. You might, you know, gyms are always crazy busy for January, halfway into February, and then people kind of taper off. So, you know, I've always thought about, like, why is that? And I think that it's important to me, and I every year, usually at the end of January, and because I'm doing this right now as we're recording, I think about, obviously, like, how did I feel in my past year? And this is a big distinction I want to talk about on this episode today is, like, obviously we want to set goals and set things, and we have numbers and metrics and things we want to measure, but sometimes we forget to think about how do we want to feel, both physically and emotionally. And that's something that I've changed a lot in the last couple of years, is, you know, we usually have a goal because we want to feel a certain way, right? Hey, I want to achieve this weight, or I want to get this job, or, you know, I want to have this major life event happen. And, you know, again, usually you associate a feeling with that, but I think it's really good to get clear on how you want to feel. So I'm going to talk today about, like, what does that look like for how you want to feel in your body? So in 2025, I'm getting married. So one of my goals is I want to feel really good in my body. And so that's one. Two is I'm writing a book this year. I just got a book deal, which I will share on social media about a little bit more. But I'm really excited about the book's called The Cortisol Cure. And so I have some big changes that are coming. I have to change my schedule. I'm going to have to do some things in order to write this book. And so I've been thinking a lot about how do I want to feel in that writing process. And so what I've come to is I want to feel relaxed. I want to feel at ease. And I want to make sure that I'm, like, giving all of my knowledge out into that book so that it can be out in the world to, you know, to share knowledge with you guys. So I'm kind of setting up my goals in terms of how I'm feeling. My third goal is to just find balance in my schedule. So making sure that I feel like I have enough space to be with my family, I have enough space to see my patients and to run my business and to be taking on this big project like writing a book. So I every year will pick a word. I know maybe some of you have done this before, where you pick a word for the year. And so when I'm usually the end of December, I think about, okay, what are my goals? How do I want to feel? And I want to try to find a word that's going to tie all these things together. So the word that I chose this year is radiate, kind of a like play off of radiance. And I will actually admit that I had ChatGPT help me find this word, which was actually kind of fun. So if you're someone who's like me, who likes to kind of set these goals, you can tell ChatGPT, hey, these are my goals. This is how I want to feel. Come up with some words that might, like, tie all this together. So it helped me. It gave me that option. I was like, I kind of like that. So, you know, in the way that I've kind of done this is I think about, okay, I'm going to be a bride. I would like to feel like I'm radiating love and I'm radiating beauty. And so that was kind of for that one of my goals. And then for the book, I really want this book to be my knowledge being radiated all out to all of you all. So that shows there. And then in all the other areas of my life, I want to make sure that I am radiating the best version of me at home, in my work, and in my creative endeavors. And so that word is going to help me kind of keep me tethered to my goals. So I think it's a great practice, and it's kind of fun. And then you can use that word throughout the year, and you can be like, ooh, how am I going to, so for me, I'm like, ooh, how am I going to radiate XYZ this month? Last year, my word was celebrate. I turned 40, I got engaged, I had all these big things to celebrate. And it was really fun. Like every month I'd be like, ooh, what am I going to do to celebrate this month? So my point is, if you keep something like that's going to stay the whole year, it can help you stay on track with your goals. So, all right, we're going to put that stuff over there. Let's talk a little bit more about simple things that you can kind of set as a resolution if you're trying to get your body and your physical health in a good place. Because I know I talked to a lot of patients this month that they're already thinking, okay, January, I'm going to get back on track with my diet. I'm going to get back on track with my exercise. And I hear patients say, like, God, I feel like I do this every year and I do great from January until March. And then it just kind of all goes out the wazoo. So, and most of them are frustrated by that and they want to stay on track all year. I think it's coming up with like baby steps, right? My favorite kind of little things that you can add into your daily or weekly routine, one, and you guys know I've talked about this before in various avenues, is that getting horizontal for 10 minutes a day, which is you laying completely flat, allowing your body to calm down and just chill out for 10 to 15 minutes. And either I call it getting horizontal or taking a toes up, where you just put your toes up and it allows your nervous system to kind of calm down a little bit. And this is a nice way to, one, rest the body, two, rest the mind, and three, it's also a nice time where you could check in with yourself and check in with how you're feeling and check in with, hey, this month, am I doing the things that I set out to achieve this year or this month or this week? Am I in alignment with my goals? Am I in alignment with how I want to feel? And I think this is where like the feelings kind of tie back. If you spend enough time, and by enough time, it doesn't really have to be that much. If you take 10 minutes a day where you are checking in with your body so that you know, hey, okay, that was a really stressful week I've had last week. This week I want to do things a little bit differently. I was not feeling how I set out to feel in the year. I need to like readjust some things. And I think this is where I know in my life where I've set a goal or set an intention or a resolution and did not keep it up was when I wasn't like coming back to myself and being like, hey, okay, I don't feel that great about this, or I need to change something. And then I would just lose the goal altogether and kind of just, so if you're running too hard and you're not coming back to yourself, it's really hard to stay on track with goals or resolutions or whatnot. So taking a little bit of time every day, and if you can't find it every day, at least a few times a week, so that you know, one, how you're feeling about whatever's going on, and that you know, hey, am I still on track with my goals, right? And I think this is what a lot of us don't do in our fast-paced culture is we will be like, oh, yep, maybe in January I was really good about the gym and meditating, but life's gotten too busy. I'm going to put that by the wayside. I'll get back to it later. But then life gets in the way and we don't get back to it. So I think it is, again, good to check in with your body on a really, and your emotional state on a regular basis. So that's one, is, giving yourself that little pause, that break, that thing that you can do to make sure that you're still in alignment with your goals. Two, I'm a really big fan of taking a quick walk. So if you're in a funk, and this is kind of along the similar veins, like it's like, hey, I'm not really feeling that great. I'm feeling brain fog, frustrated. I don't feel like I'm getting my goals done. I don't have the energy to go to the gym or whatever. Stop what you're doing and go get outside and take a walk. It could be a 5-minute walk. It could be a 10-minute walk. It could be an hour walk, depending on what your time is. But the getting outside and the kind of shaking up your environment, it will kind of reset your whole thing. And it will reset your body physically. So there's all these really cool studies that when you get outside and you look at plants or you're around plants or around trees, it will balance your cortisol levels. So if you're really, really stressed and your cortisol levels are really high, it's going to bring them down. If you're in a really depleted or exhausted state, a quick walk outside is actually going to help raise your cortisol levels up in a good way, right? We need that cortisol to be in a healthy, appropriate level so our body can have energy and we can deal with all the stress. So taking a quick walk can be such a game changer. And it's always the kind of thing where I know I've done this in the past and I've heard patients are like, well, I didn't have really time to take I really wanted to get that hour walk in so I get the good cardio. And you don't have to do that. You can take a 5 to 10 minute walk, and maybe you're not going to get, burn 1,000,000 calories or, get that benefit, but you are going to get, again, you're going to get the outside benefit. You're going to get that little reset, that little, it just kind of shakes your system up. I don't know if anyone listening or watching is a Tony Robbins fan, but I feel like I used to listen to a ton of Tony Robbins, and he always talks about, if you want to change your life, you got to change your state. He's really big about like getting up and moving your body. If you're in a funk, get up and do jumping jacks, get up and have a dance party, and I think he's a big fan of taking a walk outside as well, because it just really like shifts things up. If the weather's bad and taking a walk is not something that you want to do in bad weather, walk around your house or go into a different room or do jumping jacks. I think, again, like getting your body physically moving, it's going to help get blood flow to the brain. It's just going to shake it up a little bit. And it's nice to habit stack these first two things that I talked about. If you wanted to go
take a quick walk and then come back and lay down for 10 minutes. And then usually when you've taken a walk, your brain's in a little bit of a better state, and it's a little bit easier for you to check in with, hey, like, how am I doing this week? Am I staying on track? Am I in alignment with, how I want to feel, what I set up for as my goals? So I think, again, it's coming back to those goals. So this is where that word is really nice. If you intentionally set, hey, I'm going to have this word and it's going to carry me through the whole year. When you check in with yourself, you're like, hey, am I like embodying that word? Am I doing that work this week? And it's a nice way to kind of keep you tethered to whatever your goals are. So we talked about laying down, getting horizontal, taking your toes up, whatever you want to call it. We talked about taking a walk. And the next thing, this is a really simple one, and I've done episodes on this before, but it's drinking enough water. And when you are not hydrated, your brain does not work properly. Your lymphatic system does not work properly. Your bowels are going to get sluggish. The body doesn't work well when it's not hydrated. Really hard. If you're trying to, let's say you've got fitness goals and goals where, I think about myself, like, I'm going to need to stay really hydrated this year. My brain is going to need to work really hard, writing a book, doing all the things I want to do. And when I'm dehydrated, I get terrible brain fog. I can't think. I get headaches. So I can't do my goals if my body is not feeling that way. So drinking enough water is so important. So a couple things on water. Typically people will say you want to drink about half your body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you want about 75 ounces. If you drink coffee or any sort of caffeine, that's going to count negatively for your water intake. So let's say that you weigh 150 pounds, you drink 75 ounces of water, but you drank 2 cups of coffee. You're going to actually need to drink an extra 2 cups of water to get you to a good hydration place. I am a really big fan of drinking electrolytes, particularly if you exercise or you sweat. We want the water, in order for you to stay hydrated, you want that water to stay inside your cells. And your cells have this little membrane that goes around them. It's called a biphospholipid membrane. And water is the only thing that can freely pass through that membrane. But the thing that will drive water inside the cell is the electrolyte gradient. So if you don't have enough sodium, potassium, chloride inside your cells, water's not going to go there. It's going to stay in the extracellular matrix and you're going to pee it out. So I have a lot of patients that, they exercise, they don't salt their food, they don't take a lot of minerals, and they drink so much water. They come in, they're like, I drink 120 ounces of water a day. They weigh like 120 pounds, but they constantly feel dehydrated. They have all the dehydration symptoms. And, because they're not, consuming salt and they're sweating so much, their cells don't have enough of those minerals to pull the water inside the cell. So really great idea to drink electrolytes. There's a ton of brands out there. I have been on an LMNT kick. They're really high in salt. I find they work really well, particularly if you are sweating a lot and if you also have a little bit of adrenal fatigue. If you suffer with kind of low cortisol or low adrenals, your cells tend to have a little bit of a harder time holding and keeping that water inside of them. So minerals and the electrolytes are going to really help you stay hydrated. And when your body is hydrated, it is going to function better. When your brain functions better, it's easier for you to stay on track to meet your goals. So, these things I'm talking about are pretty basic. Not that means that they're easy, right? Sometimes drinking water can get tricky. I'm just here thinking today, like when I record, I don't drink as much water because I don't have to pee in the middle of an episode. So sometimes you're going to have days where you might have to really think about, hey, how am I going to get all my water in? One of my kind of tips for that is if you get up in the morning and you drink a good 20 ounces, like right when you first wake up, you're going to be ahead of the game in the hydration piece, right? So, a lot of my patients that I work with and myself, like I take quite a few supplements in the morning. So I get a big glass of water and I will drink that entire glass of water while I take my supplements. And again, that kind of sets the day up. And the more that you drink more water, the less you'll have to be running to the bathroom all the time. So you kind of have to get that in. I've got patients that will set reminders on their phone to remind them. But I think it's good to be, to stay on track with that. And maybe that's your New Year's resolution or your goal is to drink more water. And, again, that piece is going to help you achieve any other goal that you've set out to enter into for the year of 2025. So we've got laying down horizontally, we've got taking a walk, we have drinking plenty of water and staying hydrated. And then the next piece is going to be keeping your blood sugar balanced. So this is going to look slightly different for different people, but the main message here is getting enough protein. So to make sure that you have, particularly when you wake up, you want to make sure you have protein in the morning. Protein is going to keep your blood sugar balanced throughout the day. And this piece is going to help you probably with any health goal that you've set out, but it's also going to help you achieve other goals. Again, like the hydration, when you give your body enough protein and you keep your blood sugar balanced, your brain's going to work really, really well. Your energy is going to be great. You're going to feel superhuman. So when you drink enough water and you're taking little walks and you're taking breaks and you eat regular protein at regular intervals, you feel really good. And again, when we feel good, it's easier for us to stay on track with our goals. And you just feel good, right? Like we all want to feel good. So these are kind of really simple things that can help you feel good. And, and again, I know these things that I'm talking about are simple, but not always easy. So some ideas for getting enough protein throughout the day. And this number, it's kind of similar to water. You want to eat about half of your body weight in ounces of protein, which can sometimes feel like a lot of protein. I've definitely been there where I'm like, well, this is so much protein. How do I get this in? But getting up and having, like, if you have a protein shake can be really helpful. I find, we've done some episodes on this. It's if you like animal protein and you eat animal protein, to batch cook like chicken, steak, or ground beef and have that always available. So it's easy for you to grab it. So you're not in like a rush. This piece, I struggle with this piece the most. It's probably the hardest thing for me. And it's one of the things I'm planning to work on a little bit more in 2025, because my body functions so much better when I give it regular protein. But there are times when, like I forget to pack food and I'm like, I got a long day and I'm like, crap, I don't have any protein. But this is where like, some sort of a supplement or a protein powder can be a lifesaver. So if you have that and you can have one of those shaker bottles, you can get 20 to 30 grams of protein in one protein shake. And that can kind of tide you over and help you. So having some of these tools around, bone broth is one of my other favorite kind of tips. If you have bone broth around, most bone broths, 20 grams and that you can like drink it. It's not going to make you super full. So if you're doing that and a protein shake and you eat several meals, you're going to definitely hit your protein goals. So we'll do some more episodes on, other hacks to get protein, but this piece is really, really important for keeping the body in a state where you're going to be able to function optimally so you can stay on track with whatever goals you've set out to achieve in 2025. So, okay, protein, keeping blood sugar balanced. We've got drinking enough water, staying hydrated. We've got taking a little walk, and we've got staying horizontal. So these are kind of the four things that they're really pillars of health. Sleep is another big one, and I think making sure you're going to bed at a regular time and you are having good sleep hygiene can be really, really helpful. When your brain is rested and your body's rested, again, you're going to be able to tackle anything you want to tackle. This is another sleep can sometimes be one where you might have months where things are going on. You've got work deadlines, you've got late practices for kids, or, you've got to wake up early to, get to work or go to the gym. So there may be some times when sleep kind of has to suffer a little bit and you don't get quite what you want. But here's where, that taking that time to rest, that little mini 10-minute, laying down, getting horizontal kind of thing, or making sure like you have a day or two a month where you don't have much going on. That's kind of how I've been able to function the last couple of years. I always have a lot going on, but I will look at my calendar and I try to pick one weekend a month. I would love for it to be a whole weekend. Sometimes it's just one day where I don't put anything on the calendar, and I tell my family, I'm like, this is my I don't get out of bed day. Do not expect anything from me. I'm going to stay in bed all day, and it's like my recharge day. I sleep, I take naps, I sometimes will read or watch a show in bed, but it's really a day where like I let myself kind of do whatever I want, and it's pure and utter rest. And here's what I love about doing this is that I intentionally like have that on my calendar. I know it's coming. And I this is something I know about my body. If I don't give my body enough rest, it will eventually demand that from me. I will get sick, I'll get headaches, I'll get something that will like force me to stay in bed. And I don't like that, because then I feel guilty and then I have to cancel things and I have to say no, and it doesn't feel very good. But if I set up for like being like, okay, you know what? I've got a lot of things going the first few weeks in January, that third weekend in January, Saturday and Sunday, I've got nothing going on. I am literally not going to get out of bed. It kind of recharges me. I know that's coming. And then it keeps me from being in a position where my body like forces me to take rest. And I've dealt with many patients where they've run really, really hard for a really long time, and their body keeps like whispering at them like, hey, I need a break. And they don't listen. They shut it up. And then eventually their body will be like, oh, hell no. Like you're not going to be able to get out of bed because I'm going to give you the flu, or I'm going to give you XYZ, or you're going to get a migraine so bad you can't see, or whatever it's going to be. And then again, that sucks, because you have to cancel your plans. You feel guilty, you feel bad, you're not getting things done, and that none of that feels very good. So if you set your schedule up where there is that time where you are going to be able to rest, it's like preventative rest kind of thing. So that's a nice thing to kind of build into your schedule, particularly if you know, like, hey, I've got a few months where I'm not going to be able to prioritize sleep like I'd like to be able to, or I know, this is a really stressful time, or I've got something big coming up, then try to build out some of these, and it doesn't have to be a whole day. It could be an afternoon where you're like, hey, I'm not going to get out of it, or I'm going to go to bed really early this day. But think about that idea that you want to give your body some intentional rest time so that it doesn't demand that time from you when you're not going to be able to get anything done. So that can be a really, kind of a savior, particularly like, I have had a few patients recently that are doing, or they're planning to do that 75 hard thing, right? Where it's, you exercise twice a day, you're following some sort of a diet, and it's a pretty rigorous endeavor, and it's a pretty good length of time, and you are working out twice a day, every day for 75 days. So it's kind of, takes a physical toll on the body. So we've been talking about these patients like, hey, let's make sure the couple weeks before we're giving the body plenty of rest, and we're looking at their schedule, and we're like, okay, when that ends, let's make sure we have like a week where we give the body some physical rest. So it's like planning your life and planning your schedule with some days in there that are downtime. And I think that's not something that our culture really prioritizes. We prioritize getting things done and going. And, I deal with a lot of burnt out patients who don't ever give themselves rest time. And then again, the body is always going to tell you when it needs a break. And it would be nice to take that break before the body demands it or needs it. So if you're going to build in that rest time, it's going to make it so much easier for you to reach those goals. So again, these patients of mine that are doing hard 75, that's kind of their main goal. They're like, I'm going to do that this year. I'm really excited about it. I'm excited for all the changes it's going to bring in my body and how I feel. But one of them is actually, a couple of years ago, I was treating for adrenal fatigue, and she was pretty burnt out. And we've been talking. She's like, I don't want to get there again. I'm like, I don't think you will. We just have to make sure we're, being intentional about giving her that rest before and planning to give her that rest afterwards. And if you're doing something like 75 or hard and you're listening to this and that's something you're kind of thinking about, or like, let's say you're doing a 30-day, some sort of challenge in January, just make sure sleep is a priority or rest is a priority through that time so that you can make sure your body is able to accomplish that goal. So, okay, we've kind of talked a little bit about, being intentional about how you want to feel in the next year. What is that? How do you want to feel in your body? How do you want to feel emotionally? And tie that to your goals. If you want to pick a word, which can be really kind of a fun thing. Like I said, I had a lot of fun with ChatGPT, helping me, choose a word that was going to, go through all my goals and help touch on all, how I want to feel throughout the year. And then we talked about some ways to kind of take care of your body to set you up for success so that you can meet those goals. So again, we talked about being horizontal for 10 minutes a day, getting that rest. We talked about staying hydrated. We talked about taking a little mini walk. We talked about eating regular protein, and we talked about building in adequate rest and or sleep time. And I think if you kind of set your body up with these things, it's easier for you to accomplish whatever it is that you want to accomplish. And your physical body is going to feel really good. If all you do is say, hey, my goals for 2025 are to do those things, Dr. Kinney, those 5 things she told me, I'm going to try to do that as often as I can, you're going to feel really good. It's going to help your hormones stay more balanced. It's going to help your immune system. You're probably going to be a little bit nicer. Oh, the one thing I didn't talk about here in these is finding a little bit of time for joy. And a little bit of time for something that makes you feel good. That is not it's not something that you have to do. It's not a chore. It feels good to you while you do it. So, and I've talked about this on other episodes, but maybe doing a puzzle, reading a book for pleasure, gardening or cooking, but these things need to feel like no one's coming after you if you don't do it, but it feels good while you do it. So if you do that, plus the other 5 things that I mentioned, you're going to feel really good. Your body is going to change. Your life will probably change, in all honesty. And these things are going to help optimize you so that you're going to do a better job of meeting your goals. So I hope that's helpful for you guys if you're kind of thinking about, hey, New Year's starting, where can I, or how can I set intentions and set goals? And I can't wait to hear how everyone does. If you have questions or you want to tell me about how your journey is going, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can message us on Instagram, or you can, comment on the YouTube channel. And I hope everyone has a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to connect with me on social media to find more helpful tips and information. You can find me at Dr. Kinney on all of the platforms. And please be sure to subscribe and leave a rating and/or a review. This helps grow the show so more people have access to this knowledge that leads to empowered healing. Love and light, and see you next week.